Bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
All right, welcome, Fade to Black. How you doing? How you doing? Today is Thursday, December 12th, 2024. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Let's do this, man. All right. What an amazing week. Tonight, we're wrapping things up with James Fox. That's right. He is here. He is in the green room. Help support everything that we do around here. Get yourself a Fade to Black t-shirt. The links are below. 2 shirts. 2 ways to get them. Game Changer membership. Just order a t-shirt. Order 2 t-shirts. Everything is autographed. Everything includes shipping. What a week on Fade to Black. Monday, we had Dragon Arnold on with us from Skinwalker Ranch. Tuesday night, Jay Widener was here. Last night, Petros Koutoupas was with us, Ancient Mysteries. And tonight, it's James Fox. James' new film, it's going to be a blockbuster, but I'm not calling it a blockbuster yet. The program has its world premiere in a few days on December 16th. Tonight, we're going to be talking about all of that and much more. I do have 4 events coming up. I've got 4 events for the Conscious Life Expo, February 7th through the 10th. 2025 at the LAX Hilton. I've got the Rise of the Guardians after that, March 29th and 30th. 2025 in Sedona, Arizona. After that, the Contact Modalities Expo out there in the Midwest, May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. 2025 in Delavan, Wisconsin at Delavan Lake. And then after that, I'm going back to Peru. I just got back from Peru. Now I'm going back. I'm going to Peru twice in 2025. And the first trip is for the Inca Celebration of the Sun. This is with Brian Forrester. That is June 17th through the 27th, 2025. I am the host of all of these events. I'm going to speak at some of them. I'm just going to do my thing. The links for everything are below. I've got a very busy 2025. I had a very busy 2024, very busy 2023. And it all continues with tonight. Now, this is our last episode of the week. This is my Thursday, which is your Thursday. It's my Friday. But next week is our 11th anniversary of Fade to Black, going into our 12th year. And I was just talking to James right before the show. And what that means with everything else that I've done, you know, Fade to Black and Coast to Coast on the TV and stuff, I have done over 3,000 interviews. I've learned a lot, and so have you. And next week, we're going to celebrate all of that with our 11th anniversary here at Fade to Black, because after that, we're heading into year 12, and it's absolutely extraordinary to get to that point. And that is a lot of shows, a lot of knowledge, a lot of questions, a lot of guests, and next week, we celebrate all of that. And helping me celebrate all of it is tonight. James Fox is here. And his new film, which we will be discussing tonight, it is his highly anticipated follow-up to The Phenomenon and, of course, Moment of Contact. This film is called The Program. We're going to talk about that and why the title, The Program. It's very interesting, and the film is excellent. I have seen it. It's James Fox. Now, here's the thing about James for me. Now, I've interviewed James a lot. I've hung out with James a lot. I shopped in a shopping mall as a gay couple with James. I did that. Maybe James and I will tell that story tonight. Anyway, I've just got a huge mountain of respect for James. And one of the things, even though we can put our friendship aside and stuff, I will always go directly at James and say, man, where does all of this come from? You will not stop. He is seeking answers. And that's what this next film is about. It is called The Program. He's trying to get the answers for all of us. And I want to welcome back to Fade to Black, the one and only James Fox. And he's right there. James, what's up, brother?
Of an intro, brother. Thank you.
Well, you know, it's all true. It's all true. Even the gay couple thing. Hey,
that was so funny.
That was funny.
Can I just say something right out the gate? We tried to disable this bloody Zoom, automated Zoom on my camera. We worked on it for like 30 minutes. We got it off, and then it turns back on again. It's like AI. If you see the camera zooming in and out, I'm sorry. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look like a stiff. I'm going to be like, yeah,
you know what?
My camera's going to move.
You know what you should do?
What?
Is blame it on Kelly. Act like Kelly is there and go, Kelly, quit zooming.
This is
Kelly,
all your
quit
fault.
panning.
And you know what?
Blame Kelly.
Jimmy, I think we made it worse.
So everybody knows now it's some AI automation going on. We thought we disabled it, but
we totally had it all dialed. We were Googling it, how to do it. This setting, that setting, this internally, you know, and shut that baby off, and then bam, it's right back on again.
So that's it. No smiling. You have to,
I'm just gonna be like this.
Yeah. Oh man.
What?
Oh, man.
Got
okay,
into that
so
guy?
the gay couple thing. Let me tell everybody, because it's a funny story, and then we're going to talk about the film tonight. But I think everybody would enjoy a little personal insight. You know what actually goes on behind the scenes. James and I are over in England, and next to the hotel that we were at, unbeknownst to us, was the largest shopping mall in the world. We didn't know, right? So we walk over, we thought, yeah. And we thought we were in the mall. We were in this big dome and we were live streaming, right? We were having fun. And then we asked somebody something and they go, this isn't the mall. To get to the mall, you walk over there and you do this this isn't the mall, and it was already huge. Remember how big it was? And so then we go to the mall. That we were like in the foyer of the mall, which was already like St. Peter's Square at the Vatican. It was ginormous. So anyway, we go into the mall. James and I are shopping for stuff, and we go to store to store to store. And then we walk out to this railing. James has got to go to the bathroom. So he goes, and this guy steps up, and he was obviously watching James and I, right? He's watching James and I, and we were a couple, I guess, right? So this guy comes up to me and starts talking to me. And I went, oh, really? It's like this. Okay, all right. And then James steps up, and he goes, are you ready to go, Jimmy? And I go, yeah. And I turn to James. I turn to the guy, and I go, this is my husband, James. And he looks, and James steps up, and then remember, he just turned and walked away.
I thought you said, do you really want to party with me?
It was so fun. He was so bummed.
I got to tell you.
And you had your fedora. You kind of looked a little swishy.
I wanted a hat. I wanted a pair of shoes.
Right.
I walked by and I had no idea of that sneaker brand called On, but I saw a pair of those. And I remember you were like, yeah, you want those? I was like, I don't know. I'm kind of desperate. And I ended up going back the next day, and I went and
found them. Yeah.
I got these pair of shoes with Kelly, my sister. And I was like, well, I don't know. I know nothing about these shoes. They looked really nice. I tried them on, super comfortable, like walking on a cloud. I thought, and they breathe. They had webbing. I bought them, walked out of the mall. I looked at Kelly and I just could not. I've never had anything on my feet that was so comfortable and ever. I looked at Kelly and I said, Kelly, we're going back. You're getting a pair. And she goes, no, I don't want to go back in there. No, Kelly. She had like flip flops or something, and we're doing a lot of walking. I insisted. We went back inside, and I reluctantly, she just didn't want to do it.
Wait a minute.
I got her a pair of On.
Wait. Now, you're not telling the story correctly. Then you went, I couldn't find you, and you went missing. And I needed you on stage. And I had to send and you were stuck in the mall.
Right.
You were supposed to be on stage.
You had a driver
I had to send a driver to go and find you, and you make it to the stage
with no time to spare.
10 seconds to spare. Yeah,
my
just
heart
so you could get
when I saw that text, my heart sank. I was
like, where the hell are you, man? The place is packed, and you're at the mall buying shoes.
Oh my God,
man! Oh, that was such a great trip, man. We had such a good. But see, here's the thing.
So shocked. That video that you put together, the video that you guys put together was amazing.
Yeah, that was great, James. Yeah, the video was yeah, it was great. It was a tearjerker for sure. Is this you and I, two guys, are shopping for hairbrushes? Remember that?
That's right. We had to get a hairbrush.
We shop for hairbrushes. We shop for shoes, and we shop for hats.
Yes,
as a couple. And I got to tell you, the way that people were, we're going to, where can we find hairbrushes? And what were people looking at us like?
We got that hairbrush from Kelly, right?
Yeah. And we got it though. We ended up buying the right brush.
So funny.
Oh man. So anyway, everybody, that's James and I. We have a lot of respect for. I'm assuming he respects me, but we've done a lot in the past, and with this particular film, I've been exposed to it since before you started shooting. And you had an idea. And you had told me, if you remember, you were shooting in England, and you were going to come back here and travel across the United States and start the process of this, and then wind up eventually at my house, right?
Yep.
Which actually happened. So I'm going to ask you, through your enthusiasm that I witnessed through all of this, is this the film that you thought you wanted to make? Did you do it?
Yes. Yes. There's always slight variations, things that happen, that unexpectedly happen, right? New developments, things of that nature. But I took rather broad strokes, and for the most part, I would say it's kind of exactly what I was hoping it would turn out to be. And I had a lot of challenges along the way, which I'm happy to talk about tonight. Things that, they say life is what happens when you're busy making other plans.
Yes.
In the midst of making this film, I had a massive, colossal issue with my distribution company, and they got purchased by a larger company, and then they just stopped paying royalties right at the most critical time, because when you first put out a movie, it's usually the first 3 to 5 months. That's where you make the bulk of your investment back. And, you're always in debt, hundreds of thousands of dollars. In my case, with the phenomenon, I think I was like 1.2 million in debt at the end of it. And then Moment of Contact, maybe about 600 or something like that. And then this one more. And they stopped paying me. Like they just, I just couldn't believe it. And they kept saying like, oh, we just acquired a new company, and the accounting department hasn't got up to speed yet, and sit tight, your money's coming. And I'm watching the sales reports come in, and I just gone on Rogan for Moment of Contact, and I'm just crushing it. And I'm thinking like I can pay all this money back that I owe, and just, put a little in the coffers. Going to do that a couple times in a career. And long story short, month after month after month, it was like, just was completely robbed blind of all my income. And I'm
how does that change, or how do you keep your vision on track?
Very stressful. I mean, I remember literally having a whiskey just to fall asleep at night, and I would wake up in the morning and I was thinking, God, I had the worst nightmare last night. And then slowly I'm waking up going, and it happened night after night after night. And when is this going to end? And, I hired lawyers. This went on for months and months and months. And I hired lawyers, sued them in court. And then ultimately my my lawyer, this guy Jesse, calls me up, and Jesse Kaplan, he's great, and he goes, "Look, James, I'd love to keep taking your money, but I'm telling you, I've looked at their financials, and this is not going in a good place. These guys are going to declare bankruptcy, and then your assets, all your films, they were directly or indirectly distributed by 1091. All your films are going to be in the hands of somebody else who acquires, who kind of like a hostile takeover kind of situation because of bankruptcy. And then you're going to have no leverage with this new whatever. If I were you, I would get your films back and relinquish all interest in ever receiving that money again." And it was like a really, really painful decision to make. And I remember just feeling so frustrated and so helpless. And it's like, you'd think that, when a company violates the terms of their contract, that you would automatically and immediately get your rights back, but it didn't work that way. Like if I violated the terms of my contract, I'm screwed. If they violated the terms of contract, I'm still screwed, right? So I was dealing with that, and then paralleling that, I was having to send production stills to staff members of members of Congress that I was trying to get interviews with, because they were like, "You made the phenomenon? I thought this other individual made the phenomenon. That's what this other individual was going around saying, that this individual made." I was like, "No, I made the phenomenon." So I'm having to send production stills to members of. It felt like someone was trying to extinguish me. And then the kicker, and I'm not here to air all my grievances. I just want people to know, like I did talk a little bit about it online, but my lawyer's like, "Be very careful."
Well, you can't. Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, so I just had to sit there quietly and just get like completely ripped off blind, just completely financially devastated.
Meanwhile, you've got a film to complete. You've got editing to do. You've got titling. So, you've got to worry about future distribution. You've got to worry about content. And, I also have to sweat out is the film even good?
Well,
so
then
you've got all that on your mind.
Oh my gosh. I was like, this is, if I produce a flop, this is, I'm bust. Right. I'm out of the game. Right. And so I took all that frustration and anger and focused it, laser-like focus. And I worked harder. I mean, I was working so hard. I remember I was doing 16, 17-hour days, 7 days a week. I wasn't going to my exercise class. I wasn't hiking. I was locked in that room right behind me, who you see there. And I was just going all as hard as fast as I could, for a number of reasons. Like I had to get it done. I was out of money. I kept borrowing money. The information in the program is current. It's relevant today. It's going to be stale soon. I mean, things are progressing so quickly. I wanted this to be out this year, so I worked really, really hard in order to make that happen. And so fortunately, here we are. I'm happy with the end result. It was a nightmare getting here. I haven't had a single royalties, and again, I'm not asking for people's
donations,
sympathy or donations, none of that. I'm picking myself up by the bootstraps. I'm taking care of myself. People did say, "Oh, we'll create a what do you call GoFundMe?" I was like, "No, I'm not in a foreign prison. I don't need a GoFundMe. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm a big boy. Pick myself up. I'm going to get through this, work my ass off," and that's what I did. And so, so here we are. So it's
I remember you and I don't know how many phone calls we had about this subject. It was a lot, but I remember specifically telling you, James, at one point, this will all be in the rear view mirror. And I remember you like, yeah, but it's not, right. And yeah, I could feel, what you were going through. And time has a way, yeah. But you worked through it. The film's out. The film's great. So let me ask you this: the title,
fill in some of the blanks, because a lot of people were inquiring. I gave a little bit of information out, and then people thought, "Oh, James is being silenced by the government." Oh boy, I don't think necessarily it was a conspiracy, but boy, did it feel like it, and it was pretty intense. But in any case, let's move forward.
Yes, let's talk about the title of the film. I think that's very important. And the program, to anybody that doesn't know what the film is about, but that's the title, they're going to have their own definition and their own ideas of what the program could possibly mean. So let's start there. What is the program?
So I never have a title for a film at the beginning. The film title usually comes to me naturally, usually in the edit room. Like when I Know What I Saw, people are like, how'd you come up with that title? I probably had, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10 witnesses in the film go, don't tell me what I saw. I know what I saw. And that kept hearing that in the edit room. I kept hearing that. It was like, that has kind of a nice ring to it. It's like, huh. I did another film about the BP oil spill, and I was in there editing, and they were, I was learning about how they were using this dispersant called Corexit, and they were doing it at night with these planes and hiding these slicks, so they didn't have to pay for the amount of barrels that were being leaked, because every barrel you had to pay money, fine, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, God, those bastards are pretty damn slick. Ooh, I like that. It came to me in the edit room, pretty slick. With Moment of Contact, I was in the field, and I really wanted to be in the zone. I wanted to, I was standing right next to where the alleged encounter with a live alien happened in broad daylight with those 3 girls, Katya, Valkyria, and Liliani. And I
in the empty lot.
Yeah, in that empty lot next to that stone or wall,
yes,
cinder block wall with the graffiti. And I was like, oh man, I want to, like a lot of times with the witnesses, I tell people, like, put me there. I want to be there. I want to see what you saw. I want to feel what you felt. And I was like, put me there during that moment of contact when you locked eyes on the creature, that moment of contact. And I thought, ooh, that's a nice little title, right? And so when we got going with this film, I had a working title. And again, it was just a working title. It was never going to be the title of the film, but I had to call it something. It was called What We Now Know. And it's basically a summary of what happened since the, New York Times published that article revealing the existence of a secret Pentagon UFO program all over the news, yada, yada, and how we got to where we are today. So I was like, oh, What We Now Know, that's a good working title. It's definitely not going to be the name of the title. And I'm in the edit room, and I keep hearing these intel folks going, oh, yeah, no, I was aware of the program a while ago. No, he was involved with the program. Like, if I told you all the things that I know regarding the program, and even Grush testifying in congressional hearings, he kept saying the program. And I thought, that's got a catch to it. I like that. So I called it the program.
When as I watched the film, you managed to get the core group of players in this film from all the different sides of this story. Every one of them, I think, I was checking it out, I think they all say the program.
Yeah.
Inadvertently, just in a sentence.
Yeah.
The first time I had heard about the program, or then I got involved with the program, and everybody seems to get that out, and that's pretty interesting how that narrative is woven throughout the production. It's very well done, and it was a gift. They gave that to you, right? They gave that to you. That was just a conversation that was being had, but the reference back to it in such a nonchalant way, right?
Well,
they roll it off. Oh, the program. Yeah. Well,
right.
It's very interesting.
I like it too. And I've always liked to title my films with something that's somewhat ambiguous. I don't like to hit them over the head with UFO. I've always been that way since my first film, Out of the Blue.
Right.
The Phenomenon, Moment of Contact, the program. It's just cool, right? It's like,
it's very cool. It's very cool.
Yeah. What's that about? Pretty slick. Like, huh? What? So
let's stay right there for a second, James. To
yes,
you,
sir.
What is the program? What is it that everybody is talking about?
So currently, as I'm sure I'm speaking to a lot of people that are very informed on what's been going on. There is an unprecedented push for further government transparency that's happening on the Hill. It's a bipartisan effort. There's a lot of stuff. Obviously, we've had our third congressional hearing in just a couple of years. There's been the admission of the phenomenon is real. There have been people that have testified under oath, a couple intel insiders, that there is a crash retrieval program, and I wanted to kind of encapsulate this time in history because it's somewhat unprecedented, and to kind of put it all together, both in front of the scenes and behind the scenes, what's been going on, how we got here, because it's kind of a bit shocking, really, for mainstream. I mean, the lack of coverage speaks volumes. They just kind of wrap their mind around it. So I wanted to create a body of evidence, both, again, in front of the scenes, but also behind the scenes, to kind of explain on what's going on and make it kind of understandable and to a more mainstream, uninformed audience. And also, but I wanted to be fun for the UFO community too, and throw in some new, tidbits and make it exciting and enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Do you think the program will turn, I'm going to do air quotes on the program. Do you think the program will go from an intangible to a tangible soon?
And what exactly do you mean by that?
Right now, it's impossible. It's an intangible thing, right? It's a subject. But if the program gets revealed, then it becomes tangible. So yeah. Do you think that we will see that soon?
I feel like, and people have said this in the past, like, disclosure is imminent. I would say necessarily disclosure. I think that Nick Pope put it quite eloquently years ago to me, and he's like, disclosure is never going to happen with a big D. It's going to be a small d. It'll be seeping out. And I think there are enough people that are set on not letting this one slip between the cracks this time. There are enough people coming forward. There's enough pressure. There have been enough congressional hearings. There's enough support from the citizens, because obviously our elected officials need to know that we're there backing them up and supporting this effort. So I don't anticipate them putting the genie back in the bottle. I think it's coming out and will continue to come out.
Okay. Now, it's my job to get stuff out of you. It's my job. You know this. You know me too well, right? Okay. It's your job to just hopefully say, Jimmy, the film premieres on December 16th. Thank you. Good night. Right? So we need to meet somewhere in the middle, right? We need to meet somewhere in the middle. So that being said, this is my program, by the way. This is my program.
You can't handle the truth.
You can't. You can't. Still one of the greatest films ever made. But you knocked a couple of moments out of the park here. And the first thing, without giving anything away about the film, but this was an extraordinary moment. Dude, you nailed down Gary McKinnon. Okay? That's a big deal. And for those out there that may not know who Gary McKinnon is, Gary McKinnon, in my opinion, is one of the most instrumental forces and voices and characters in this entire disclosure drama, where he had two state actors fighting for him. Dude, he had the Queen of England on his side, right?
He had presidents and prime ministers
asking for his head. So, but what was it like? Again, not to give away anything.
What was
it like to sit down with Gary McKinnon? And feel free to tell a little bit about why Gary McKinnon is in the film and what he pulled off.
Yeah. So, you talk to these people that are associated with the task force, the UAP task force, Arrow, ATIP, intelligence folks, and they've been hinting at the fact that there's a repository somewhere of very high resolution 4K imagery, much more compelling data than what's leaked, right? But there's very little information that they can reveal beyond that. And we've all suspected, because we know the cases over the years, that there's been an effort to, consolidate and collect all this data and hide it, right? And so I cover that aspect of it within the intel community with a number of people back to back. And then you got a guy, a civilian, Joe Public, like me, who's was a very intelligent computer hacker. And the way he put it is, I was trying to steal the truth. And it was one of the biggest computer hacks in U.S. history. It certainly was at the time. And he wanted to find out if the allegations were true, that the government had very high resolution, imagery of UFOs. And after several weeks of poking the problem, maybe longer, it might have been a year or two, I don't know.
Well, he did this for me. Well, okay, so the show's not about me; it's about you, James. But
found it.
A little bit of background.
Yeah.
So Gary was in England.
Yeah.
And he starts poking around. He figured out a couple of things that honestly were very, very simple, but that a good computer hacker will tell you it's not difficult. It's not the difficult stuff. It's the simple stuff that you do. And so Gary, with a dial-up modem, by the way, a dial-up modem,
56K, yeah.
56K modem, gets into the Kennedy Space Center in Florida and finds certain computers that don't have passwords at the admin level. Okay. And a lot of people don't do that. And you would think that the NASA computers, right, have passwords at the admin level. And so he's with a simple line of code, and his code, which I've seen, it was crazy, man. It was the simplest thing. Anyway, he gains access through a 56K modem to NASA computers, and he can control the frigging desktop, and he can see it. So he searches UFO. That's all he does. Searches UFO and finds a folder with a UFO designation and opens it up to see what's inside. And it was a treasure trove. And he had a few minutes of free access to a NASA UFO folder. And that's absolutely incredible. And especially what he revealed, right? The list of off-planet.
Yeah, it was non-terrestrial officers.
Non-terrestrial officers. He's got a list of that. So anyway,
yeah.
So I'll let you continue, because in the film, he takes us through that moment, which is extraordinary. But he sees something, doesn't he?
He makes the funniest quote. Yeah, he sees a cylindrical shaped metallic object floating in space. He said it was clearly not man-made. He described it like almost like a cigar with a bubble on the top and bubble on the sides, and with what he assumed was Earth, but he wasn't positive that it was Earth. It looked like Earth, but it had cloud cover and stuff. And he was sitting there waiting for this gold dust to land on his lap with this incredible anticipation, bated breath, as it's like, 56K zip, 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 drawing this image, getting all the way down and down and down. And he's just sitting there with his slack jawed, looking at this thing. And all of a sudden the cursor moves and then cuts him off. And he's like, it was my eureka moment, but also, oh shit, I've been caught. He quotes the talking heads, by God, what have I done? And then he woke up, I don't know how many months later it was, 1 month, 2 months, with men in suits in his bed, over his bed, standing up over his bed.
Yeah, they caught him. They caught him
in his house and arrested him right there on the spot.
And so the United States charged him.
They didn't come to jazzercise, by the way.
No, they did not. They did not. They said that he caused I think it was 500,000 or $1 million in damage to computers. That was one of the charges. And all he didn't, there was no damage done to anything. But Obama was in office. Theresa May was in office over in the United Kingdom. And the United Kingdom chose to look at these because the United States wanted them extradited to face charges over here. And he went public with the information. And Parliament got involved. Theresa May got involved. The Queen got involved, and it's
like
one
Pink
of the
Floyd, a bunch of like really famous musicians got involved. They made a song for him, and they were fighting for him. I mean, it was a big story. I mean, it was a
huge story. It was a huge. Now, beyond the UFO part, we're talking about a geopolitical situation that is happening. Between the two countries. Now everybody knows who Gary McKinnon is. All right. Now, what was it like to sit down and talk to him and look right into his eyeballs?
It was incredible. I'd waited over 20 years to meet him. Yeah. I mean, he was been a target on my radar since early 2000s. Might have been the late 90s, but definitely the early 2000s. And but it was such a media swarm. I mean, the guy was absolutely inundated. He was in custody. He was on the verge of being locked up for 60, 70 years. I mean, he was going to be locked up for life. He said he was going to take his own life. It was incredible. And we had this mutual respect for each other. He said he'd been following my work for a long time. I was like, I've been following you. We had a lovely time together. Then I took him out to dinner with the whole crew and had some drinks and just had a really good time. And we stay in touch since then. I text him updates, what's happening with the movie, and he's super excited to see it. I think I had a very narrow window to get him because I think he's he's under contract for something else right now. I'm not sure if they're making a major motion picture or what's going on, but he's definitely involved with something. And I don't think he's doing any media at all. And I was so happy that he accepted my invitation for an interview because I wasn't sure if he was going to do that or not, but he did.
Well, and do you believe that he saw what he says he saw?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I do.
I mean, you're a great judge of character. You're sitting right in front of him.
I would not have included him in the movie if I didn't believe him.
Right.
Definitely not. Definitely not. Yeah.
He seemed less stressed out than he has been in the past. Is he? He can't leave England. He can't leave England. He's
he can't
stuck
go to
there.
Scotland. He's apparently that's his home.
He can't leave unless the United States drops charges, right?
Yeah, they have to. What's it called? Be pardoned. He needs to be pardoned. Yeah. I put that in the movie because I was hoping that maybe he could be pardoned. I mean, the guy suffered long enough. He didn't hurt anybody. He didn't reveal deep, dark secrets. I mean, I don't know. It's like I understand the need for security and certain secrecy on certain things, but I don't know. For some reason, when it comes to UFOs or UAP, I feel like all bets are off on that one. That I feel like that kind of information is, we're all entitled to that, and it really irks me that that there are a handful of people on the planet decided that they know better, they know best, and this information is going to be kept from all of us because for whatever reason, even if it's a little scary, I don't agree with that. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
So, and people could come down on him. Is he a traitor? Is this? But he wasn't trying to hurt anybody. He was just trying to find out. He literally said, "I was trying to steal the truth."
It was UFOs, man. Look,
UFOs.
Look. Here's the thing with that, James. If UFOs are not real, right, according to the dogma of the past, then who gives a shit, right?
Yeah,
right. If it's real, then it's our right as Earthlings to know about nature. That's it. It's nature. Now, the sensor systems and how they are detected or communicate, all of that, keep that shit a secret. Yeah. I understand that, but if there's life in the universe, it's our right to know.
Yeah, what do they call it? ways and methods, or methods and that the justification for some of the secrecy at times is kind of ridiculous. But they say, well, we have certain cameras that have certain abilities, and and especially depending on where they're located on the planet. It's like, all right, we'll blur that out.
Yeah,
great.
Who cares?
Take all the data out of there. Fine.
We don't care about that. In fact, that's actually
ways
boring.
Ways and means.
Ways and means.
Yeah.
But it's our right as Earthlings. That's like saying they're going to keep sea otters secret from us, right? No, we have the right to know what lives in the ocean. We have the right to a beaver colony next to the swamp in my backyard. I want to know no, that's a secret. What do you mean? It's nature. And it's the same thing with the universe, man.
One of the things that really bothers me when I hear all these folks from the scientific community like Neil deGrasse Tyson on the news talking like, oh, if UFOs were real, surely there would be a lot better video, proof than just a blurry this, that, and the other thing. It's like, yeah, true. And there is, according to all the insiders, that data does exist and it's classified, and it's really frustrating. I really wanted to hammer that one home in this film, because when you make these inquiries and you meet with these people and you learn that there's just behind this wall of secrecy, there's far more compelling data, sensory data, radar data, photographic data, overhead data, satellite, right? So, it's a little frustrating to report on something that I can't deliver to the general public, but you got to report on it, know it exists before you can start really looking for it. And there's an individual under Navy X. I don't know if you've noticed that or not. The gentleman that his identity is not revealed, his voice is disguised, but he actually describes where a lot of this data that this individual has seen is being kept on the various platforms, right? I mean, he gives specifics on that.
Well, the other part to this, I think is even more important when you have firsthand accounts and we have direct access to locations and everything else, where it seems that certain precedent should override an NDA or override somebody else's ability to make a decision if you should find out about this or not. I'm talking about elected officials, even the president of the United States. If there is somebody that has that power inside of this country, we've got a problem there. That's a huge issue when something else can override a judicial issue, a fundamental rights issue, a law issue, right? And that somebody wields that kind of power, that's a government inside of a government. That's something else playing behind the scenes, and I think that is wrong.
It's so frustrating too, because I remember David Grush when he was testifying. That was a moment in history. Boy, that was incredible to witness. When he was testifying as to the existence of a crash retrieval program, I mean, what a huge relief that was for me. I mean, just to being ridiculed for all the time. And I just made that crash retrieval film, Moment of Contact. And then he was like, yeah, I've given all the street addresses, all the relevant details to Thomas Monheim, who's the current ICIG. And I'm thinking to myself, well, are we going after this guy? Are we trying to get him to testify? Can he be subpoenaed? Can we get the president to give him immunity so he can provide the details, those specific details? Like, I can't believe that more isn't being done on that. It's like the guy's like, look, man, I gave all this information to Thomas Monheim, the current ICIG. Well, has there been any effort to get this guy to come forward? Have they got him into a skiff? Are they subpoenaing him?
And who determines? But even a bigger issue than that, James. This really pisses me off. I swear to God. Who determines who gets the library card for a skiff? Who determines who gets the hall pass for a skiff? Who is circumventing that? When Grush said what he said, right?
Yeah.
You call Grush's bluff. That's what you do. You call his bluff. You go straight, you go across the hall to the elevator, down into the skiff, and you go bring it, right? But that didn't happen. I thought after that hearing, everybody there was going to pack up their stuff
and go right into the skiff.
Go right into the skiff and go, dude, put up or shut up. Let's go. It's go time.
It
hasn't happened.
Who
determines that? Is that the Capitol Police?
He does not. I was told they took his clearances away.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You don't need a clearance to go into a skiff. You need a clearance. You go into a skiff to share classified information. You don't have to have a top secret clearance to go into.
They want Grush doing is going into a skiff with Congress.
And who determines that? That's my.
Yeah, I know. Well, hey, I'll expand on that in a second. One of the things that Brian Bender, who used to be a contributing editor to Politico, he's like, look, I've been on the Hill for 20 years reporting. I can tell you, if Congress finds out, that will leak to the general public. That's just how it works. So they've been doing everything they can to block Grush from going into a skiff to reveal the necessary details to verify his claims. And that's incredibly frustrating. I want to hammer that one home. But let me say, 2 weeks ago, when did we have those congressional hearings? Was that November?
Which ones?
The ones that we just had in November.
A month ago. It was right. It was when I was in Peru. So It was sometime after November 13th.
Yeah. So I got the opportunity to go into a skiff and meet the current head of AARO, All Domain Anomalous Resolution Office. Always have it tricky.
That's close enough.
And John Kozlowski.
Yes.
And I mean, it's incredible. It was a very surreal moment for me because I was sitting there kind of jokingly saying to myself, well, I'm in the belly of the beast right here. You know, I never thought that I would be in here meeting with these officials. And I was just talking very candidly with them. And there was another gentleman, I think he was Air Force Office of Special Investigations. And I said, hey, you guys have got to throw us a bone here, man. You can't be pulling off the show.
Wait, stop, Fox. Stop right there. Why were you in the skiff to begin with?
Well,
you can't just let that blow by. Well, I was in a skiff with the
I know. It was the craziest thing. Let's see. There's so I've got a number of leads on footage. I've got leads on footage in Brazil that I'm following up on. I've got leads in footage with the Chuck Clark stuff. I'm always following up on. I never let things go. I mean, I was following the Calvine UFO photograph case since the late 90s, early 2000s. I was pestering Nick Pope for names, and not the kind of thing they'd throw away. There's another lead I have with a gentleman, Alan Sandler, who's apparently got the Vandenberg 1964, I think it was September, 1964 rocket, Atlas rocket that was launched, and not the one that Jacobs describes, where the UFO comes in the screen and then shoots a beam at it, and then the dummy warhead falls out of the sky. This one, according to Bob Emenegger, Alan Sandler, and Angela Joyner, the journalist from Texas who unfortunately died of COVID. This footage was official footage that was given to the two filmmakers, Alan Sandler and Bob Emenegger, by a guy named Paul Shartle, who ran the audiovisual at Norton Air Force Base in maybe 1972, 74, something like this. And I had made arrangements 10, 12 years ago to purchase the footage from Alan Sandler, and I was going to use it in the phenomenon. At the time, it was called 701. Maybe it was a little earlier than that, but right around 10 years ago, 11 years ago. And the guy was like, look, Alan Sandler was like, it's very impressive. He described it to me. He's like, this is how it's going to work. He's a very funny guy. He's like, you give me $25,000. I'll put it in a escrow account. You come to my house. I'll play the footage for you. If it's not everything I told you it is, then you just get your money right back and off you go. And pleasure doing business. And if it is what I tell you it is, and it's very impressive, then I keep the money. You get the footage. Off we go. So I get the money together and go to make this happen. And at the last minute, he says, no, I can't do it. I said, Alan, you promised. And I went out of my way to generate this money. And he goes, well, I'm not doing it. My lawyer said, why are you doing this? You're a wealthy man. You're retired. You're putting your neck out. And quite honestly, that footage really isn't yours. It's the government's. So he's like, I'm not going to. And I kept pestering him. I went to his house a couple of times subsequently to then. And then I was talking to, which I think it should probably remain nameless, this individual, but I was talking to a government insider that participated in the program. And I was telling this individual about the story. And I said, yeah, and he goes, well, what do you want to do about it? I was like, well, he says he doesn't want to give it up because it's not even his property. It's the government's property. He goes, okay, well, should we take action? I said, yeah, at this point, screw it. The guy's going to die with it. So I gave the government his name. And I actually have a recording from him calling me going, I can almost play it for you. It's really funny. And these guys are contacting me and they want to get the footage. What do I do? Did you send them out, after this? I said, yeah, I did. And he goes,
man, I'm staying on your good side.
Yeah.
I'm staying on your good side.
Did
I tell you how much?
I was like, hey, you said it wasn't yours. It was the government's property. Now they want it back for analysis. And I told the people that I'm working with, I said, if you guys get your hands on this, I want a copy. You get a copy. This is not going to disappear down a black hole. Do I have your word on that? Yes. I said, okay, I'll help you go after this. So they contacted him. They had to prove all their credentials, who they were, which they did. And now he's currently, as of right now, in the process of, tracking it down. And so that's happening. And they had something they wanted to show me of a launch that they found. They found two canisters. One canister, I think, was like there were two dates in that apparently borrowed a lens from NASA and they filmed this Atlas rocket with a high-powered lens and a couple of different occasions. I'm trying to remember if it's two dates within the same month. It might have been. One was maybe the 15th. One might have been the 22nd, something like that. It was February. But in any case, one footage from 1964 was there at the archives. They found it. The other one, I believe they found the canister, but the film was gone. So they think perhaps the film footage that Alan Sandler has might be the one that they can't find. So they want to find that because obviously you've got, shot of an Atlas. If Emmenegger saw it, he told me all about it. Alan's seen it. He told me about it. Angela Joyner had told me about it. That you got two different camera angles. You got one that zoomed in rather close and you could see two or three objects flying around the tip of this Atlas rocket while it's doing 8,000 to 10,000 miles an hour. And they said it was circulating it. And then there's a slightly more distant shot of it. And so they quickly eliminated any possibility that it was lens flare or anything like that because it was the exact same thing, exact same movement of these little disc-shaped objects that circled the head of it. And so we're going after it. And they wanted to, I talked to them about it and they showed me some footage of the Atlas rocket. And they're like, oh, we're thinking about releasing this one. I was like, that's not even close to what he described, the gentleman that shot the footage. Jacobs? Robert, is it Robert Jacobs? I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember the individual's name who's been talking about the footage that he took in the early, I think it was 1964. And so that was the primary reason why I was there. But we were also just talking UFOs, different cases, certain leads I was trying to give them to follow up on. I was asking them.
Did you have to leave your phone outside?
Oh, absolutely. And I had to get a 48-hour background check on me. And then I had to go through all this metal detector security. They had these glass tubes like in Star Trek, where you have on one side, it goes, opens up, and then you walk in. There's just one person at a time. And there's like one here, one here, one here, all the way down. And then you walk in this glass tube, and it goes, open, the doors open, and you step inside, and then that closes, and another one opens, and you go through. I was like, this is crazy. And then I went up to the door, and it was just like the door I expected it to be, like a big vault door with a bunch of buttons and stuff on it. You know, I tried not to look when he's pushing the buttons to open the door. And they walked me into the building and walked down the hallway. And I was like, I can't believe I'm in a skiff. This is crazy, you know? And then he walks me up in this hallway, and there was two doors, one on my left, one on my right. The door on the right was closed. The door on the left was open. And so I can see a oblong kind of shaped table and like 5 or 6 people sitting down talking at this table. And I was stopped right there. I was waiting for him. And so I looked over to the left, and I was eavesdropping on these guys, right? There was a couple of women and a couple guys, and they were having this conversation, and I was tuning into it. And I'm looking, and one of them gets up, slams the door in my face. I was like, sorry, I couldn't help myself. And then they come back, open the door, and then John Klasklowski comes in and talking, and they said, well, you know, it's funny, actually, a prerequisite is the mandatory watching. If you're going to work for Arrow, you have to watch The Phenomenon. I was like, you're kidding me. He goes, no, I'm not. And then he said, boy, that
Really?
case,
That's pretty cool.
I swear to God. He goes, that case at the end of The Phenomenon, that landing case in Africa. Wow. And I said, yeah, right. Isn't that incredible? He's like, that's really incredible. All those children saying the same thing. It was really cool. And then that's when I started saying, like, you know, look, you guys got to throw us a bone. I mean, we ultimately know that the vast majority of these things can be explained, right? Because it's the resolution office. But there's a stubborn core, 15, 20% that clearly not. That's probably, you know, non-human intelligence. They didn't like deny anything or shake their heads no or anything. And that's when John, the new head of Arrow, looked at me and he said, I can say this, and I'm going to say it. He said, James, I can't part my hair without the DOD's approval. And you can quote me on that. So I thought to myself, wow, why would he tell that to me? I think he's basically saying that his hands are tied no matter what he uncovers.
That's exactly what he said.
That's
You don't
exactly
have to read between the lines. Yeah.
You don't have to read between the lines. Yeah. So he said, you can, he looked at me, you can share that publicly. You can talk about this meeting. You can say that. So I am.
Let's take our break right here. Well, let's take a break. Let's take our break. When we come back, I want to talk about your good friend, Bill Nelson. We'll do all of that and much more. Yeah, we'll do all that much more. Tonight, it's the program. We have director James Fox with us. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us. We'll be back after this short break. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button right now. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and get the Fade to Black official podcast. 2,000 episodes, all of them commercial free for just $2 a month. Watch Into the Vortex on Gaia TV. It's Fade to Black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click on the link below. Follow Fade to Black on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get all of the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? How you doing? Jimmy Church here. Special announcement. Get your Fade to Black t-shirts. That's right. Help support the show. Help support everything that we do over here. We've got 2 t-shirts. We've got 2 ways to get them. Get your Fade to Black t-shirt today. Go Backley Tappy. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut. River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. All right. Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, James Fox is with us. I want to let everybody know his new film is called The Program. Its world premiere is this December 16th, and you'll be able to see it on all of your streaming platforms that are out there, and that is December 16th. And full disclosure and transparency, I'm just going to say this. I'm giddy. It was a Christmas gift to me, and it's an honor and a privilege. But my name made it into the credits. It did. It's there, and very special moment for me and stuff. But the film is perfect. There's a lot of things about it that are very, very revealing, and I'll say this: no punches are pulled in this film. James went straight at the subject, laid it out for me. And I'm saying this without James on the screen. When a documentary comes out, because I've done so much research into the subject, I've interviewed all of the key players on the subject, and I've been chasing the truth for a very long time. And so when a new documentary comes out, it's difficult for me to get something new. It's difficult, right? And so for the rest of the world that are seeing a documentary like this for the first time, they are getting fresh information. I get that. It's new to them. For me, I was riveted by this film from beginning to end, and the way that James wove all of this together around the subject of the program. It's so well done. But let's bring James back in. There's a key moment in this film, James. Key moment. Bill friggin' Nelson. Oh, by the way, yes. I don't need to ask about Kelly or how she's doing, because that brief moment, she is sitting next to you at that presser, and I just had my Kelly moment.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah. Well, you know what though? Kelly's listening right now, and she's like, "Church." She's probably going to text me in just a second. Leave me out of this. She's the glue, man. She's the glue. She's the glue of the operation, and she's just absolutely extraordinary. But she looked great. So, but there's the moment of that, and she's sitting next to you when all of this goes down. Bill Nelson. Can I just say this? Can I be very blunt? Bill Nelson is full of shit. Oh, and I used to respect that guy when he did that thing at University of West Virginia or whatever, and he talked about extraterrestrial intelligence in the universe and contact and what could be out. I was like, he's our guy. This guy is in our corner. And then he gets up there. I'm going to get to your part of this in just a second. Let me lay this out for the audience. This is what he says. He goes on and on. This or that, UAP it's not extraterrestrial, but we don't know what it is. Wait a minute. You can't have it both ways, bro. You can't. You cannot say it's not extraterrestrial, but we don't know what it is. No. And he straight faced this. So you get up, dude. Hats off to you. You get up and you went straight at him.
Yep.
You went straight at him. And he, no. Okay. So what was going, when you stepped up to the mic, how did you hold yourself back? Because you were pissed off. I could tell.
Well, getting in was tricky. Brian Bender, who used to be a contributing editor to Politico, pulled some strings and got me on the roster. And but I was not, I'm not technically press, right? I don't have an organization behind me. I'm fully independent. So it was like bending the rules a little bit. And I came, we arrived, and I had a sound guy, I had camera guy, Kelly, myself, tripods, cameras. And you have to go through like metal security, metal detector security, that sort of thing. And there's a lot of activity, and I'm like passing tripods, and we're getting gear out and trying to get through the security point. And there's this guy, and he just, for some reason, I just remember thinking at the time, this guy feels like my damn shadow. And he had a gun too. I thought he was with NASA. I'm not sure, but he looked like he was with NASA, but he had a gun. And he kept saying like, well, who are you? And I had this old press badge that was like,
Motor Trend.
I was like
Motor Trend press badge.
I looked like so much younger than I was. It had expired 7 years ago. And and I had it kind of attached to my hip, and I just thought, just at a quick glance, it'll be fine. But he kept saying, "Who are you with? Who are you with?" And the security guys were like, "Sir, pass me the tripod. All right, give me this." And so I had enough of a distraction to kind of get this guy off my tail. And I kept thinking he would go away, but I got through the security. Bam, he's right there again. "But who are you with? What organization with?" I'm independent. "You're independent. Who are you?" It's like, and I'm sitting there going, Jesus Christ, guy, get off my back here. What is your problem? Like, why are you zeroing in on me? Like, what did I do? Like, just back off. He just like had a thing for me. And then the woman at the entry point, she's like, your name? I was like, I'm James Fox. And she goes, he's on the list. He's on the list. And he's looking at me like, and I could tell. Anyway, we get in there, and I see, somewhat of a flurry of activity. It wasn't packed. It was invite only press. It wasn't like an open thing. And I see a microphone, and I'm looking to myself, that microphone is going to be for Q&A afterwards. I'm standing right there. Bam. I'm going to be ready to go. I am going to get a question in to Bill Nelson, period. And so I was a little nervous, and they said, only one question each. We need to keep it moving. One question. And I got two in, and I was kind of holding his feet to the fire. And I really wanted to talk to him about David Grush, because David Grush had just testified in open hearings. But I was also like, wait a minute, you just said that you don't know what the UAP are, but it's not extraterrestrial. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. I really want to get that question. How can you say what it isn't when you don't know what it is?
That's a true definition of paradox.
Right. And then on top of that,
just like, what?
And then on top of that, I was like, okay, so once you make the determination, you guys have an investigation going. It's been a year-long study, not based on classified information, which is ridiculous, but whatever. It's another topic altogether. I was like, what's the plan if you come to the determination that a small percentage of these do originate from a non-human intelligence? What's the plan to tell the public? And then he kind of like, he kind of dodges the question.
Oh, wait.
Then I asked him again.
Hold on. You know what was brilliant about that was after you asked that, and he was kind of ruffled, the lady at the panel goes, "Okay, who are you?"
Yep.
Again, James Fox.
Yes.
That's all you need to know. I'm James Fox.
When you watch, and I was in the edit room, okay?
Right.
I edit my own movies. when you can analyze that footage very carefully. You look at everybody sitting down at the table when I'm asking those questions. Now, we filmed all that. You would not have seen the facial expressions on those people had we not zoomed in and gotten those shots, because
100%.
the footage that they had was not anywhere near as good as the footage that we got.
Right.
I had a pro, David West, who's the best cameraman ever. He was on it. And you look at their faces when I'm asking those questions. Look at all their faces. Look at it carefully and analyze that. They were not ready for the kind of questions I was asking.
Those are the two questions that they didn't want.
Didn't want those questions, and then they didn't want the David Grush question, but I didn't get that question in, and I was already pushing it with the two questions I got in on it. And then I said to, when he dodged he didn't answer me, and then I asked him again, yes, sir, but is there a plan? And he's like,
no, he says, this is what he says.
You bet your boots.
I'm telling you about your own film, but you've edited way too much. Bill Nelson's answer was, I'll revert to what I already said before.
Yeah.
That was his answer.
Yeah.
And it just, that the question was, right? You said it's not ET, but you don't know what it is. Explain, sir. You can't have it both ways. And that's what you were trying to get out of him. And he said, his answer was, I'll revert to what I said before. It was so frustrating. It was
so frustrating. And then, thank God, another guy in line, people were asking the stupidest questions. I'm like, are you kidding me? What? And just, it's so easy to fool an uninformed public, right? Then there's one guy comes up and he's like, you said you're going to be transparent. Yet this guy, David Grush, just testified under oath, I don't know, it was a week ago or 2 weeks, but it was very recent. Mm-hmm. And then he goes on this whole thing about David Grush. I was anticipating, him saying, hey, you know what? We are currently in the process of a UAP investigation here at NASA. We take these allegations seriously. This, particularly with the guy with the credentials that he has. We're in the process of running this down or investigating, and we'll report back at a later date. That would have been okay. You dodged it, but hey, it's acceptable. But that's not what he said. He starts talking about, that guy, I heard about that on the evening news. Yeah, he had like an alien in a box somewhere in a warehouse, or his buddy had it. I'm going, are you what?
Yeah, the director of NASA to say, well, I don't know anything about it, only what I saw in the news. And he said that he had a friend of a friend that had
an alien in a box in a warehouse. I was like, that couldn't. So I was fuming mad, and I thought strategically and very carefully, and I jokingly say revenge is the platter best served cold. I thought about it very carefully, and I got my revenge in the edit room months later. I really spent a lot of time carefully crafting that whole segment of the film and sprinkling it out through the end and really making it look
the sound bites that you had collected. I don't want to give away the film, but it's a very clever way of editing.
Right. And then the split screen.
Yeah.
It was great.
Very clever. Now, there was I remember, I want to review this and get your take on this. I remember that press conference, and I watched it. Okay. I watched it. We all did. And there was something that was said in that press conference that you also repeated in the film. So I just want to go back and address this point. It's very confusing to me.
Okay.
One of the analysts that was looking at the data of which, by the way, was all unclassified data, wasn't any classified data, and that was a weird thing for NASA to say. That they really weren't trying very hard, but he says, I'm going to paraphrase, NASA's footage and analysis isn't clear. It's fuzzy, it's crap, and it doesn't really show anything. And I'm thinking now I'm paraphrasing, right? But that's what he says.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And now wait a minute. Shouldn't NASA have the best sensor data? Shouldn't NASA have the best footage? Shouldn't NASA be collecting, no matter what it is, when it comes to this kind of stuff, the best? And he's saying that what NASA has isn't worth looking at. It's fuzzy and it's crap. do we have a problem with the way NASA is capturing footage and collecting data?
I knew it was going to be a big nothing burger when I found out they were doing it on an unclassified level. You're not going to have access to the classified material. If you're not going to have access to that, don't even bother. What are you wasting a year of taxpayers' dollars for? And then to come out and the whole thing stank. And Bill Nelson really that really upset me. And I feel like I did David Grush justice in that edit room and really to defend him and his position and all of that. It's like the guy's coming forward and he's testifying under oath in congressional hearings, and you're gonna just completely like turn the whole thing upside down, like get it so off. It was so bad. I couldn't believe it. And I was like, there's no other way to interpret this as a smear job, a smear campaign. Because where did he get that information from? He just pulled it out of his, you know what I mean? Like his intention was to completely debunk this guy, and he tried to do it.
Now, okay. Again, I'm not going to pull anything out of James, or I want everybody to go and see this film. But there were a couple of extraordinary moments. And one of them, I think she was with the NSA, the physicist.
Yes. Sarah Gam.
Sarah Gam. Her 15-second pause.
Oh, my gosh. Incredible, right?
Can you address that? You know what? That was gold. That was really gold. You captured gold. So you asked her a question, which was, a direct question about evidence and what she saw and what does she think? And it was a yes or no question, right? So you asked the question, and basically, then what happened? What happened?
With your clearances and with your access, did you find far more compelling data, photographic evidence, this type of stuff? And she pauses
15 seconds
for
I timed it.
Long time.
15 seconds of dead air.
Pause of any movie I've ever done. And I had at one point, I think somebody was in the edit room with me one night, and that's a really long pause. Like, you need to shorten that. And so I shortened it for a couple of days, and then I was like, no, I don't. Nope, I'm going to go put that raw again.
You got to, because this is what she does. Everybody look at me. She goes just like this.
In your head.
Yeah. She goes just like this.
Trouble? Like,
just like this. Yes.
Yeah. Yep. That's it.
I was like, oh, that's my God.
Yep. That's it.
Dude.
Very memorable.
What did you think? Okay, let me get inside your head. At that moment, did you think she was going to answer?
I was like, did I just like put her in a really awkward position? Because I didn't mean to. I'm asking.
She's
questions.
Really nice.
She's great. She's amazing.
Yeah, she's great. Yeah.
But it's risky for these people, right? I mean, like, what can they say? What can't they say? A lot of people had to get, approval on, there were certain people that were part of the task force that also participated in the film, and I had to send it all ahead of time. All right, is this okay? Is this approved? And a lot of things were said without really saying them. A lot of things were said with people's eyes, right? That long pause, like, can I tell you? Okay, one of my and tell me if you remember this scene or not, because I think it's really funny. There's a couple of memorable moments. That's one of them for sure. And there's another one where I want to make T-shirts, and I've been saying this for a couple of days now. I made poached eggs. They made toast.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
Isn't that brilliant?
Yes.
It's so funny because I have a couple of people that have been doing copy editing for me for a long time. Trying to make sure all the commas, everything's in there correctly. And she calls me up. She goes, "Why did you leave that in? Why'd you leave that in?" I said, "What? I made poached eggs. They made toast." And she goes, "Yeah." And I go, "It's really funny, don't you think?" She goes, "You know what? Yeah, you're right. That is really funny." But she's like, "It's not really relevant," but it is, because it really brings them to life. Like, you know, they worked in the kitchen together. He made poached eggs. They made the toast for breakfast, you know.
You know what though? The way that he spoke with that
Richard Green.
accent. Yeah.
Brilliant.
The way that he spoke with that accent, it was the guy can tell a story.
He can tell a story.
Not a lie. That's not what I mean, everybody. It's his delivery of painting the picture. It's really well done. The windshield wipers were on.
Yes, yeah. They came back inside. They looked white as a fucking ghost.
Okay. So everybody, I'm telling you a couple of key moments in this film that are worth the price of admission, and that Sarah Gam 15-second pause. That is gold for a documentary. Well done. I want to talk about a couple of other things really quick. I didn't think I'd ever arrive at the day when James Fox would drop an F-bomb in one of his films. And you do. Now, I would do that. I would. You, James, you know, and you let it rip, Tater Chip. You did. And you didn't bleep it out.
Here's really funny. So we interviewed Richard Greaves, and he agreed to give me an interview. Like, he went to print with David Clark. Again, I can't thank David Clark enough for all of his tireless research on the Calvine UFO case. None of that would have been possible without him. And he found Richard Greaves had come forward, contacted him, and I think it took like 2 years for Richard Greaves, who knew the photographers, claims to have known the photographers, to come forward and give a print interview, just print. So I said, David, like, this is a huge development. Like, my God, can I get this guy? I said, I'm at the tail end of production.
But that's not when you drop the F-bomb.
Well, I'll finish. So,
okay.
I get this guy, you know, he says, yes, I'll reach out to him. I'll see if he's willing to do it. He reaches out, he comes back. David says, yes. He creates a thread. He says, Richard, meet James. And Richard agrees to give me an interview. And I was super excited because that's a huge development on the case. And it was very last minute. Like, we were wrapping, the film was a wrap. And he said he'd do it. And then, like, day after day after day, he just ignores me. And then he's like, he'll text me after 5 days, hey, I'll give you a call tonight. Doesn't call me. And we got to, like, literally, I mean, I had like one more day left. And I said, all right, man, I got nothing to lose at this point. I just said, look, you know, I'm sure you're really busy, and I really appreciate the fact that you've accepted to give me an interview, but I'm out of time. You know, nothing, dead. Next night, sitting in the edit studio, working with Lance Mungia and a couple of other people. Phone rings. It's Richard Greaves. He goes, I've just come out the pub. I'm ready to talk. Like this. I was like, all right, roll camera. Let's roll. And we roll the cell phones, whatever we could do. Just get it. And he drops a number of F-bombs, like a lot. And he's very sincere. And my God, I've never had an interview like this ever in my life. I'm going to release.
And he's a great guy.
He's a great guy. And he's like,
he's probably 80.
Yeah. And the way he describes, and there's a couple of scenes that got cut out that I'm going to actually post online because they're so funny. So funny when he describes the guy that stays in the car smoking a cigarette. I've never heard a description like it. I mean, the guy's brilliant. Anyway, he drops a bunch of F-bombs. So I'm in the edit room. We're cleaning things up. And I call a partner of mine who has been in the distribution business for years, and called him up. And I was like, God, you know, I told him about the interview. He's like really happy. And I said, you know, can I drop an F-bomb here? Can I say?
You mean on the show? Yeah. Like right now, live?
Yeah.
You're James fucking Fox, man.
Okay. So I called him up and I said, Jim, I said, you know, how many fucks can we say, you think, without getting like a rated R or something? How many fucks can we say in the movie? He goes, well, what do you mean? I was like, well, I did this interview with this guy. It's a brilliant interview, but man, he drops a lot of F-bombs. And he's like, well, how many? I said, I don't know, 12. He's like, ooh, 12 is a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, 12. I think you get one.
He goes, He goes, I would say 2 or 3 fucks in the movie. We could deal with that. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
well, I got 1 fuck. So that leaves me with 2, maybe 3.
Oh, man. I couldn't believe it. Now, the way that you used it was correct. Okay. But it was just so, I mean, for you, it was a great moment. Now,
it's just
but
my
James,
frustration. It was very in the moment, and I initially was like, well, maybe I should bleep that. And I was like, you know what? I am Joe Public, right? I'm showing my frustration. I'm meeting with a guy that was in the task force. I'm super exhausted with this ridiculous, claims of the lack of better data when it exists. And then you got these people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, bless his heart, respect him as a physicist, but Jesus,
right.
It's just really frustrating. And it just came out, and
Leslie's face.
Yes.
Leslie's face. It was everybody, when you get to that moment in the film, you'll know what we're talking about. It was well timed. It was emotional. It was meant, but wow, it was cool. Okay, so now, Jason Sands.
Yes.
Now, here's the thing. We go back to one of the oldest sayings that we have: extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, right? And so Jason Sands, there's a couple of moments there.
Yep.
But for you, and you've been around the block, man. You've been around the block. You've heard it all. You've seen even more. But when you're going through a moment like that,
yeah,
what compelled you to include the story in the movie?
I wrestled.
Forget about credentials, CVs, people back, and all of that. But the incident itself, right?
Yeah.
What compelled you to include that in the movie? A movie that is straightforward, based on facts and data.
Yep.
And then you have this moment. What and you and I talked about this. We talked about this specifically.
Oh, for sure. And I knew I was going to get flack. From what is it, Nick West and those types. Fair enough. It's to be expected. Comes with the territory. You have to think about. I just came off producing Moment of Contact, which deals with allegedly live aliens walking around in broad daylight in a town of Varginha, Brazil in 1996. Right. So I'm reporting on that. Captured aliens, live aliens. I mean, that's a pretty slippery slope. That's a tall tale.
You have multiple witnesses. You have all kinds.
For sure.
Yeah.
But I'm pushing the envelope, regardless how many people. I'm pushing the envelope. I can't prove it. I don't have that definitive piece of proof. I was pushing the envelope, and I had a lot of people in the UFO community question my intentions with that one. I said, sit tight, and I reported on it. Now, I did a number of things behind the scenes to verify, prove, or disprove that encounter. That's going to be nearly impossible. I wasn't there. I have the names, first and last, of the other on-duty officers. We have a date. We have a location. We have a leaked video from 3 days prior at Nellis Test Range of an unidentified object. Various voices on there. I thought, at the end of the day, I located the individual who allegedly debriefed the on-duty officers after the encounter, the alleged encounter. That individual, unfortunately, would not confirm nor deny. It was like, I'm aware of the incident, and that was the end of it. And that's on or off the record. Just that was it. I thought, I believe Jason Sands. He's willing to take a lie detector test publicly. He's willing to testify under oath, particularly if he's given immunity, to provide the necessary details on all the other aspects of his claims. And I thought, look, we're not going to get anywhere with this story if I don't report on it. So I'm going to report on it. I'll put a caveat out in this story. We couldn't verify that it happened. I know it sounds extraordinary, but I'm gonna include it. I'm gonna hope that this will trigger other witnesses to come forward to either prove or disprove that encounter took place. And then I remind the audience, like, look, This isn't the first time close encounters of the third kind have been reported. This has been happening all around the world for a long time, dating back to the 40s, 50s, 60s, etc. And it is what it is. Like, let's see. Like, it's like me putting out the Calvine photograph. Like, I don't have the guys that shot that photograph in 1990. I have a lot of other people testifying about it. Do I want to get those people? You damn right I do. And I put it in the film. Like, hey, if you've got information on this, if you know who these witnesses are, please reach out to David Clark. We want to know. So I'm hoping that something similar would happen. And I know it's an extraordinary, I know I will probably be criticized for leaving him in, but I believe Jason Sands, and I stand with him. So, that's it.
That's it.
Yeah. I don't know what else.
Do you have to sometimes vet with your gut? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, look, I met with folks on the
inside.
I
understand all of it.
Yeah.
Certainly you need that.
Yeah, I mean, I looked him in the eyes. Him in the eyes, and I sat
right.
with him. We had dinner together. We've been hanging out a lot. Particularly times when I was shooting in DC and talking on the phone. And I was like, at the end of the day, I believe that he's relaying what he believes happened that took place. I do. I would have cut him out of the movie if I didn't.
He said that he was vetted for about a year before he spoke to Congress.
Yeah, part of the task force found him. Yeah,
right. And that they came to him because his name was in a bunch of reports and materials.
Well, yeah, and I talked to some of the people that said they actually.
No, I mean, way before the movie. I'm talking about originally.
Yeah, and look, and he wasn't intending on fully coming forward publicly. Right. That was my error, right? I posted a production still on X. And if you zoomed in on that picture, it had a clipboard, the take board, and it had J period Sands written on there. And I got all these calls on Signal. What are you doing? You just revealed, I was like, oh shit. And
I called you that morning.
And then he got a lot of, I mean, oh my God, I really stirred up the pot, and he was really concerned about his safety, his identity. I mean, the whole thing was a shit show. I have no one to blame but myself for that. And as a result of that, I'm giving you the truncated version. He ended up applying through DOPSR. I don't know, can't remember the acronym, but it's basically pre-publication approval for anything that could be potentially classified. And it took several months to go through that process for anyone that wants to write a book or participate in a film or say anything about some of the stuff they might have been involved with that was classified. They approved him to come forward, provided he didn't say a couple of words that we had to bleep out in the movie. If you noticed during the interview, that was mandatory. I had to bleep those things out that he said. And he decided based on that,
that's right. Those were
I had to bleep things out. Yep, I had to bleep things out. I had to do that.
Let me ask you one thing about his story, and I want your take on this. He describes what sound to me like normal U.S. Army or U.S. Air Force fatigues that this being was wearing, including the hat. It sounded like human clothes.
Yeah,
that's the way it felt to me. Is that the way that you took it? And what do you make of that? Is that E.T. imitating us, or did E.T. go and steal the uniform off of another? I don't know.
And that's the thing is that he doesn't say, an alien. He said he thought maybe it was a mutant. He thought maybe if initially it was an individual that got into a plane crash and was in desperate need of help. He thought the blue tint to the skin was because he was cold. Never did he think that he was encountering a potential alien, right? And when they drove up, this convoy came up on him, and remember there had been sightings and videos taken of an unknown craft at the Nellis test range 3 days earlier, and apparently everybody was talking about it on the test range. I'm sure there's tons of people that know about that one 3 days earlier, and they came up on him, and I guess someone in the car screams when they pulled up onto him, he's got no effing ears, is what they screamed. And he was thinking, why did you just say that? He got out and he actually going to put his jacket on the guy because he thought he was freezing. And he was taking his jacket off and trying to put his jacket on him. And then he realized, oh my God. He said it was almost like this snake bite feeling. Like, he said it was really scary. Like, he looked in his face and this guy was like, this doesn't seem like a human. Like, what am I looking at?
He's got no ears. He's got no ears. That's a pretty, I mean, for humans, for me, or for anybody else to hear that, what do you mean he's got no ears? Well, he's got no ears, right? His partner says that in the Jeep.
Yeah.
He gets out and then he sees, I can only imagine the confusion because we are acclimated from birth. We look at the human face. I'm looking at you. I see two eyes, a nose. I see ears. It's part of our DNA. It's what we do. We look for human faces.
Yeah.
Right. And when you don't see that, that doesn't compute. That's just got to be a strange feeling.
And then the eyes apparently were really big. I mean, he does a very good illustration of the face. It's pretty crazy.
But back to the uniform part. That's
so one thing, I don't know if you caught this or not, that baffled him at the time was that he's got this uniform on. He just watched this individual basically trying to run to the desert for help. And he's like, this guy had not a speck of dirt on his boots, his fatigues. Like, how is that possible? He's out here in the desert. He was just running on a dirt road and he's got not a spot, not a speck of dirt anywhere. And he was baffled.
His boots were shiny,
spotless.
Yeah,
it was really. And then the guy started speaking gibberish, but then he understood everything he was saying. You know, I mean, the story's crazy. I mean, like, again, I encouraged Mr. Sands to reach out to other witnesses because we have their names first and last, and we found one of them, started a correspondence with this individual, and then as soon as Jason mentioned the encounter, the guy went dark. So we've been trying, and again, I'm hoping that the fact that we're reporting on this case in the way that we are, that more people will come forward, and there might be an internal investigation too. Who knows? I mean, look, if there's footage of the craft 3 days earlier that's very similar to the one that he described seeing that day, maybe there's footage of the one 3 days later that hasn't been found yet, that hasn't leaked, that hasn't been uncovered. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
He's a polarizing, he's a polarizing guy. I mean, only in that it's hard for people to believe. That's the sure. It's one thing to see something in the sky or see this or a ship, but you go and you tell that story and you're going to straight face it and then expect a reaction out of people. Well, that you're going to get the reaction that you're probably expecting, which is, really? Are you going to stick? Are you sticking to that story? So yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And then the description of the craft in the drawing sort of kind of looks like the video.
Yeah. Well, I reported on Socorro, and the police officer in 1964, Lonnie Zamora, made eye contact with one of those alleged occupants from that case. Granted, there wasn't any kind of, don't know if there was communication or not, because he did lock eyes with one of these individuals. And I remember his wife saying, I don't know what happened during that encounter, but he was never the same person after that. Lonnie clammed up. And that was one of the aspects of the encounter that the United States Air Force desperately wanted him not to talk about, was reveal the beans on the ground, because that's a game changer, right? You got an unidentified object in the sky, beans on the ground. That's a whole different ball game, right? So, and I'd reported on Rua and Virginia and other cases that happened. Where was it? Sorry, it was Papua New Guinea with Father Gill back in 1958. That was alleged contact with beans. So, yeah, as crazy as it is, and obviously I can't prove it, but I felt there was enough compelling data and because of his position, that I was going to report on it, and I opted to do it, and I knew that I would get criticized, and that's okay. You know, I'm not stating it as fact. I think it's a very compelling story. I think there's other information because of the leaked UFO video from 3 days earlier at the Nellis Range, and the fact that we have these other names. Maybe some more information will come out on it, you know, or maybe it'll turn out to be bogus. I don't think so, but we'll see.
Do you think now you also as a very rare appearance from Hal Puthoff in the film? And Hal spends a lot of time. He had a lot of screen time.
He did get a lot of screen time.
Yeah, we don't get this from Hal too often.
No.
Do you think that
not easy getting that interview, by the way?
No, of course not. Do you think Hal said too much?
Well, I was in touch with him.
He obviously didn't say enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But you know,
he walked right up to the edge a few times.
He did. And you know, there's some memorable quotes from that interview as well. When I talking about, is there more compelling data, satellite, overhead, sensory, this, radar, you know? And he's like, yes. I was like, well, could you talk about it all? Nope. You know, it's just so funny. I remember we had a screening at the Soul Foundation, and there was an auditorium, and there was like 400, 500 people in there watching I was sitting right at the back, and there were a number of moments in the film, and that was one of where people would laugh. People definitely noticed the Sarah Gam moment, the Richard Greaves moment, some of the statements from Hal Puthoff. You know, it's memorable. There's always a few key moments in any kind of film that you watch that are memorable, right? That really stick with you. And I think there's a couple of those moments in the program.
So back to Hal.
Yeah.
Were you nervous with Hal?
Sure. Yes. Are you kidding? Yeah. I was sending him constantly clips. Hey, do you approve? Is this okay? You know, and pushing it right up. You know, yeah. And he said, I'm doing this because of my grandchildren. That's what he said. I thought that was really sweet. He's doing this because Hal's not getting any younger. I mean, none of us are really, right?
No, actually, he's got to be. I thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a scene where you guys are at his house and he's coming down the stairs. I'm like, man, he's a little fragile.
Yeah, well, he's in his 90s. I mean, God,
he's fragile.
He's doing great for that age. I hope.
Well, his mind, I hope I think like that when if I make it that far. Yeah. He's definitely very clear. But at what point in somebody's life, and I think you're just about there because you're dropping F-bombs in your documentaries now, but I think that there's a point in everybody's life, and I'm nearly there. I've been warning my audience for a number of years now, where I almost don't give a shit anymore. Right? Okay. I have everything that I want. There's nothing material that I desire. Right? I've got 2 drawers full of socks. If you know what I'm saying. I don't, you know what I mean? There's nothing. So nobody can really, I don't care. So I'm almost ready to just start running my mouth. Why doesn't Hal get to that point?
He said, I'll go to jail.
Dude, Hal Puthoff's not going to jail. I understand that. Nobody, and when I say nobody is going to jail for talking about UFOs.
Did you ever think
it's not going to happen?
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. Did you
but isn't that admitting something?
Let me ask you a question. Do you ever think that Hal might be a whistleblower?
I think he should be. If he knows something, he should be. Yeah. I truly believe that. him, Kit Green, right? Eric Davis, these guys that, you know, are supposedly really close to the fire and know things. You know what? Nobody is going to jail for disclosing UFOs. It ain't going to happen because could you imagine the court testimony involved with that? The government's not going to allow that. It is also saying that the subject is real. If you go to jail for it, you can't go to jail for talking about something that doesn't exist.
Why don't you get David Grush on and tell him that he's not going to jail if he reveals those classified information that he uncovered during his investigations?
Well, yeah, you wouldn't.
And see how that works out for you.
No, he wouldn't go to jail. I'm telling you right now. I'm telling you. What testimony would the government allow to go? What secrets would be revealed in court in order to get a conviction? The country would never. There's no. I'm telling you. They say never say never. I'm saying that it'll never happen.
Yeah, I don't. From a number of people that I've talked with, both on and off the record, I disagree. I think there's fear for the consequences legally.
The world here. Let me tell you why.
Yeah.
Let me tell you why. The world would not allow it. The world. Every media outlet, every magazine, every podcast, every personality, every talking head would have your back, and it would be the will of the people. There's no way you would go to prison for revealing the UFO secret. It wouldn't happen. The world wouldn't allow it. There would be anarchy in the streets. As a matter of fact, if that did happen, you would have a religion named after you. You would become that kind of person historically for till the end of time. There's no way. No, it wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen.
So basically you're saying it would happen.
I'm saying nobody's going to prison. Yeah, nobody's going to prison over it.
There's a statement that I'm going to be posting from Navy X, who appears disguised in the film, and that individual is putting together a very poignant statement that will be released the day the film is being released in just a couple of days. So sit tight for that, and it'll answer some of the things that you're talking about right now. It's pretty cool.
Well, but there are, when you look at, what was that guy's name? We forgot because he lived. Oh, Edward Snowden. His ass didn't get suicided. His ass is still alive.
Yeah, he'd be behind bars if he was in the States.
What I'm saying is, if somebody came out and revealed the big stuff, right? And the threat of this or the threat of that, the world would be your protector.
They tried to lock Gary McKinnon up for 60 years.
He's still alive.
If Snowden tried to get back in this country, he'd be behind bars. Guaranteed.
But you're missing my point. My point is they don't necessarily have the ability to get to you. And if it is, and he's an example of that, never got to him. He private planed his butt out of the country. That's the other. So, but when it comes to UFOs, you would be the most supported and beloved and guarded. The will of the people would be surrounding you. There's no way. There's no way. The thought of your attorney demanding materials to be turned over for court, the government, no, yeah, there'd be no, it just would happen. I'm telling you. So that's one of the things, and not you, James, but others out there that, not the whistleblowers. I'm talking about journalists or podcast people. The sensationalism behind that, they, to be, well, no, it's the NDA and it's the threat of jail time and they need to hide. No. That's a sensational way of talking about it. The truth is, ain't anybody going to jail for revealing UFO secrets. It ain't going to happen. It's not. It would never happen. Quote me. Quote me. There's no way. Can you imagine, just for a second, the backlash? Grush goes to prison, and his cellmate says, "So what are you in here for?" "Man, I told him where the flying saucers are." What? You what? How is that a convictable offense? UFOs don't exist. We haven't made contact. They're not here. We don't have flying saucers. We're not backwards engineering. That's the story. So if the government needs to stay by that, or if somebody reveals it, then that's it. The truth is out. You're not going to go to jail for that. It's just not going to happen. It's not. There's just no way.
I disagree, but that's okay.
You can.
I disagree.
I see the wheels.
Fear is real. I think the consequences are real. It's unfortunate. There's always power in numbers. Obviously, I would like to see some action on the executive side, the executive branch, of somehow providing blanket immunity to those firsthand folks that are very worried of coming forward, legitimately concerned for their safety. I mean, you remember Grush talking about he was fearful of his safety, and they let him know that
his wife's safety.
And his
I totally get that.
They let him know that he could be touched anywhere. And
Could you imagine the documentary that you would make? About listen, James, if that actually happened, then you and myself, you would make a documentary about how the government and their retribution on somebody's well-being and their family and their children because of revealing the secrets of alien life in the universe. Can you imagine the uproar of the public with that kind of information? That's why I'm saying it could not and would not happen. There's just no way.
It really depends on the setting. I mean, it really depends on the circumstances and the setting. And I could tell you right now, these people do not feel safe. There are consequences for their career. There are consequences potentially for their safety. They don't feel safe. I can tell you that the individuals that I interviewed that were involved in the crash retrieval program in Varginha, Brazil, were absolutely terrified to this day. 26 plus years later, they were fearful for their safety. And even when I was filming in Brazil the last time around, we either had just met with firsthand witnesses, or we were about to meet with other witnesses, and the military base started calling around, very spooky, and just hey, how you doing? Are you still living at this address? Hey, how's the family? This kind of stuff. Just good. Glad to hear the family's good. Hey, there's a film crew poking around. And then by chance mean very spooky, like not like we're gonna come and kill you, but hey, you still live at this address? Glad to see the family's doing great. Hey, are you talking to these people? Just spooky. I'm just telling you, man. I've met with a few of these folks here in this country and abroad, and they're legitimately scared. They really are of the consequences.
Well, so I guess back
that's
to my.
That's just real,
I just think that the public and going public with that subject, the world, you would have the support of everybody. There's just no way you would have the support of 100% of the planet would have your back. And somebody like Hal Puthoff, when Hal said I would go to jail, no, you wouldn't. No, you simply wouldn't. And that's my take. Now, has anybody tested that water? Has anybody jumped in the deep end of that pool? No. But I'm saying come forward. We have your back. The community has your back. The media would have your back. Governments would have your back. I don't think that there would be any issues. And there certainly wouldn't be a court case for conviction. It just wouldn't happen. Can you, that all of the defense secrets, all of the national security issues, all of that?
My understanding of it, and I'll talk to some people that are more well-versed on this, that there's no due process. There's no due process when you violate national security, that they just kind of pick you up and plop you behind bars. There's no revealing.
Yeah, but see, that's
so
where
I think it's different when it's related to national security. This falls under the category of national security, right? So I think it's different.
That's what they would say. But the world revealing an alien presence isn't national security. It's a right to know. And I think that is a very solid argument that would be placed on that. The detection methods and the communication methods, okay, all right, but we're not interested in that. But the visitation of aliens and ETs to this planet, that's for us to know. And so I agree. That's why I do what I do. I feel like everybody's entitled to this information, and I keep pushing the envelope a little bit. I mean, I didn't report on Close Encounters of the Third Kind until I got to the phenomenon. What was that? Let's see, 1, 2, 2.5, 3. So what was that? My fourth, fifth? Yeah, my fourth film, the phenomenon. And then, then they crash, live aliens. Reporting on this one, this alleged encounter in the desert in Ellis. Well, the implications if that's true, there's so many questions that brings to mind for me. It's like, what was that guy doing on the base if he was there? If that really happened, the way Sands describes it as happening, what was he doing out there? Did he have the permission? Was he communicating with them? What was he, you know what I mean? And I think about what was Gary McKinnon when he came upon, allegedly, that list of non-terrestrial officers? What was that about? Is that real? What about my meeting with Robert Bigelow, when he told me they're walking among us? Again, I'm not saying that that they are, but Gary, why would he tell me that? Robert Bigelow say that, and I've had other people. I mean, I don't know, man. It gets pretty strange the more you start going down this rabbit hole. The phenomenon is super complex and kind of crazy, right? Historically, for any of these whistleblowers, crossing the line and actually getting to the meat of the matter, historically, you're going to be on the right side of history. And history in the future is going to look back at these moments. There's always somebody that has to be first. There's always whether it's an astronaut strapped to the end of a candle, right? A firecracker, somebody that's getting on a ship for the first time and is going to sail over the horizon to a new land and not come back. There's always somebody that is first. And in this case, when it comes to the UFO question, we need that person. We need that person. We need that somebody to absolutely come out and it's go time. And that's what I'm saying. And I don't think that anybody that would do that and anybody that would be first would go to jail. I I just don't believe it. I don't feel it in my bones. It's going to happen, James. That moment is going to eventually happen, and that person's not going to jail. But somebody's got to be first. You know, there's a lot of people looking at each other. Is it going to be you? Is it going to be you? You know, who's stepping up? But it eventually is going to happen.
Imagine the congressional hearings. Okay, imagine the congressional hearings with first-hand witnesses directly involved with the program, whatever the program name is. That is going to be an incredibly historic day. I mean,
and that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
David Rush is phenomenal. And look,
Yep.
you know, maybe you know, the president-elect Trump could wave his magic wand and provide immunity to some first-handers, and they will testify. I'm sure that Tim Burchett is going to be working on that. I have no doubt that he will be, you know, continuing his push for transparency on this topic. So I think it's going to be, you know, we're living in exciting times. I think 2025 could be a bit of a roller coaster. We'll see. I'm hoping that this film, the program, is going to make an impact. I think it will.
It will. That's why this film is so important. And you bring up a good point before we say goodnight. And I know it's late. You're on the East Coast, but you bring up a really good point. Just imagine Senate, House, right? Testimony, you know, so, and somebody starts going, okay, all right, well, here it is. You ask for it. Here's the paperwork, right? Do you really think security is going to come in and arrest somebody at that moment on TV?
No.
On C-SPAN? No.
I got it.
No.
I mean,
ain't going to happen. They're not going to come in and arrest Hal Puthoff.
The level of secrecy, it's just unparalleled. The effort that goes into keeping the lid on this story is pretty remarkable. I mean, like, you know, I'm constantly baffled by the omnipresence of these men in suits that show up around the world. The better the case, the more compelling the eyewitness testimony, and the more likely these guys are to show up, particularly when there's evidence. And they do show up, and they're just, I don't know how they do it. How do they hear about all these cases immediately? How do they're just everywhere. It's really, really remarkable.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Isn't it? And when I uncovered the fact, you know, thank God, again, David Clark, I can't thank him enough, that Richard Greaves, that's what happened to the witnesses and why they vanished. Oh my God, here they are again. Like, my God, you know, thank God this picture, thank God the Calvine, thank God for, you know, the RAF press officer, Craig Lindsay, kept one of those prints. We'd have never seen it. We'd never know about it. You know, thank God that one slipped between the cracks, but it took 34 years, 33 years, whatever it was.
Well, yeah. So, and when we, before I say goodnight,
yeah.
Disclosure is brought up so much these days. It's brought up in the program, and it's mentioned. And this community disclosure, they want, you know, they want the president of the United States. They want all of this. Okay. All right. So if all of that happens, are you thinking that we are in some kind of situation where anybody, once disclosure happens, is going to start going to jail for talking about this subject? No, I just don't. NDAs and all of that are completely out the. There was a really good point that was brought up in the last hearing, and I think it was Moskowitz. Was it Moskowitz?
Moskowitz. Yeah, the Democrat from Florida.
He's an attorney.
Moskowitz.
Yeah. When he said, he asked Lou Elizondo, and he put him on the spot because I know exactly where he was going. He said, you signed a document that said you wouldn't talk about crash retrievals? And Lou Elizondo said, yes. And he goes, where is this document? Well, it's in a skiff, which is a weird thing to say. Like there's a vault in the skiff where documents are kept about UFOs. I don't know about that part. But Moskowitz goes, did you have an attorney when you signed that? The point is, and I know where Jared was going, you can't, signing that you cannot talk about crash retrievals is admitting that there's crash retrievals. That's what that's saying. So where's the document? Bring us that document.
Yeah,
That's the kind of evidence that we need.
You're not going to be forbidden to talk about something that doesn't exist.
Right.
Don't talk
And
about
that's
this thing that
exactly
doesn't
where
exist.
I saw he set it all up, man. He, like a good attorney does, he set all of that up. Where is that document? And if you're going to say it, produce the document, because then we have something that we can discuss.
Yeah.
And which goes back to all of this. So, James,
yeah,
go ahead. No,
I was just going to say, it's important to talk about these things. It's frustrating because we feel like things aren't happening quick enough, or perhaps you're talking about something, but you're not producing any evidence. Well, first of all, we have to be aware of its existence before we can go after it, right? So that's another reason why I've decided to report on some of the things I did in this film. It's like, how are we going to learn more about this? How are we going to encourage other people to come forward and potentially disclose additional information about any number of these cases if I don't report on them, right? I'm not putting it forward as like, hey, I'm reporting on this. This is a fact. This happened. That's not what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Let's find out if this did happen. So anyway, let me tell you quickly, the film will be available on the 16th, a couple of days away.
Yep.
This has been the most independent production in the history of my filmmaking process. We have no distribution company. Completely produced this thing independently right here in this barn. Went around shooting, and it will be available on Amazon and iTunes and Apple TV and Vimeo. And I've posted on X, formerly known as Twitter, at James C as in Charlie Fox, the other various platforms. The film's coming out for the first 2 weeks. It's going to be a purchase only, which is going to be expensive, $20. I totally understand if those of you out there, that's a lot to ask. If you want to support this independent movement, hey, support it if you can. If not, in 2 weeks' time, the film will be available to rent for much cheaper. So just want to let everybody know.
It's a tremendous film. It's just from front to back. Just
Thanks.
Well done. And I got to tell you, when you deal with the most sensitive of subjects, which in this case is the program, it's going to ruffle some feathers, but people need to be able to question everything. And this helps support that. And just well done, man. Well done. Very excited.
Thanks.
And much success. It's going to be great. I'll talk to you tomorrow, and nobody's going to jail. Not even you, James. Not even you. I'll talk to you, brother.
Thanks for having me on.
You're the best.
Bye.
Give my best to Kelly.
Always.
I'll talk to you. James Fox, everybody. The program, it is out December 16th, like James just said, on all platforms. It'll be Amazon and Apple and everything else. Available to purchase for 2 weeks, and then after that, it'll be a rental. You're going to watch this many, many times, so you can wait for the rental if you want. I would purchase it because you want to watch it yourself and then show it to your friends and family. There you go. This is my Friday. It is your Thursday. This is Fade to Black. Very special thanks to James Fox. Nobody's going to jail. Go back, Lee Tappy. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Special thanks to Bill, John, Dex, Jessica, Dennis, and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro, Space Boy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Go back, Lee Tappy.